Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Inside Update, brought to you by InsideInvestigator.org, a nonprofit newsroom working to root out corruption in the state of Connecticut. I am Connor Dragotis. I'm the managing editor here, and today we're doing a special episode. We're talking to our newest investigative reporter, Alex Appel, and basically the whole point of this is to introduce her to you because we've had the opportunity. She's been here for a few weeks. She went through a lengthy interview process. We have gotten to know her. We think she's wonderful, but we want to also make sure that everyone watching, listening, and tuning in understands why she's on this team and the value that she can provide. So, Alex, welcome for the first time to Inside Update.
Hi, Connor. Thank you so much. And what a wonderful introduction. It's great to be here.
For sure. It's been a kind of a whirlwind, I think, of the first few weeks. You have thrown yourself in like head first, full, but you're doing an Olympic dive here to get into the water. How's it feeling so far? Get being in
Sorry, but no, it feels great. Definitely a lot to catch up on. As you know, I grew up in Connecticut, but it's been a while since I've lived here. But it's been wonderful being back at a paper. It's or not a paper, but a publication. But it's just wonderful being here. It's wonderful, reporting on home and coming back here. It's great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I still, I guess we call ourselves a newspaper too, but you're right. For anyone who's out there like, man, I haven't been getting the paper edition. No, we're not gonna use our very responsibly held donors' money on a paper product in 2024, right? We just want to put this right on your phone, right on your browser, make it as easy as possible for readers. Um,
Absolutely. And as inexpensive as possible. I imagine that's
Exactly.
part of it.
Exactly. Holy cow. Yeah, could you imagine we've had the opportunity to talk with media outlets, more traditional media through different organizations that we plugged in and memberships and at a couple of award ceremonies, and one of the things that people bring up so often is the cost to buy and maintain a printing press and to try to keep that going. And then, I go out into my community and they're like, "Oh yeah, like I'm so excited I got the paper so I can use it to start my fires." And I'm like, "No, darn it, like that's a trend in the wrong direction for news. Like we, I guess maybe we're not providing as much value as we could by not helping people start their kindling."
I really hate to say it. In college, I definitely did that. I was the editor in chief. We just had so many leftover papers after like a few months if no one takes it. But I newspapers are really good for that. They really work so well. But
Exactly.
I think the people in Connecticut are okay buying wood if they need to, or
Absolutely.
otherwise, you
Yes.
know.
Yep. Many papers out there. Let us fill the role of providing great journalism that you actually read. That's a good place. And that's, I guess, where I want to dig into talking about your career and your passions, because I think that's one of the reasons that you were hired onto this team is because you genuinely care. So I guess the question truly is, why are you a journalist? Why are you in this industry to begin with?
Um, so it's funny. It definitely started in high school. I went to Farmington High School as it's a generic name, but I'm sure many people have heard of it. And it started with my high school's AV club. I joined to make friends, and then I realized I was really bad at some of the technical aspects, but that transitioned me into the school news. And really, it was so great interviewing people, talking to people about their passions, the things that, they did for communities, like most high school news. And I was later in newspaper. It was more fluffy pieces, but I found such great motivation and meaning and inspiration just talking to people. And, later on, I just leaned into that. And I started doing some more hard-hitting stories in college, and it just felt so good pursuing the truth. That was something that really, really, really inspired me. I'm not that great at giving like personal or political advice. I trust people to make their own, decisions, certainly better than I could make for people. But one thing I think is a good community service I could do is help people find information. And yeah, again, it's something I'm really passionate about, find just rooting out the truth.
I like that. I think that that's important to highlight because it's such a core part of our team and our mentality about the way that we tackle journalism is we are not advocates. Like we have a mission to root out corruption, but that's not the same thing as saying, hey, with this information, here's what you got to do with it. That's not really our place. That's not journalism. It's advocacy, right? So when you bring that to the table, I think that's really cool. And we've already seen this in your news coverage. I know I am not going to spoil what investigations are coming down the pike. Y'all are gonna have to wait for those to hit the press, not literally. But we're gonna get these out to you in the next couple months. Um, and I guess that's built too on a work history that has continued since high school and college. I mean,
Oh, yes.
this is not the first time that you have jumped into a new and surprising place. Tell us a little bit about your work history.
Yeah, so again, I did school news, school newspaper in high school, school newspaper in college, but my first professional job was in Kodiak, Alaska, which is very, very far from Connecticut. I'm not sure if you've seen it on a map, but I'm sure you can guess. And it was such an incredible experience. I worked at the local newspaper, the Kodiak Daily Mirror, and I was a general assignment reporter. At first, I was hired to cover the fisheries and city government beat. But, as the time went on, I kind of started covering everything. So that was my first experience. And I flew I remember I flew in like August 15th, I arrived, and 23rd, I believe, I started working right away. And it was such a wholly different experience. And then from Kodiak, I went to Arizona, or Phoenix, Arizona, just a little bit about Kodiak. Small community, big island. Less than 13,000 people on the entire island, 72 miles of road, if I remember. I think there's like more bear mass than people mass. Um, oh, Kodiak bears are pretty famous. And then from there, I went to Phoenix, Arizona, which was it is one of the largest metropolitan areas in the country. And I went from small town news to more state stories, more investigative stories. And yeah, just that transition was again very fast and very incredible, I'd like to think. Not necessarily like, oh my God, I did the best work in the world. Like, I should have gotten the last Pulitzer, but it was incredible in the opportunity to experience such different news telling opportunities. Um, and there is a surprising overlap between the types of people who live in Arizona and the types of people who live in Alaska. There's actually like an Alaska to Arizona pipeline, but also I it's so I think every reporter that had my job for like the last three iterations before me ended up in Arizona. A lot of fishermen who off season in the desert. Um, but yeah, Phoenix, though, is obviously very different than Kodiak. And it was just, really great throwing myself into those environments. And well, obviously, I'm familiar with Connecticut having grown up here. It is still very different than Arizona and Alaska.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I'm guessing the Connecticut to Alaska to Arizona to Connecticut pipeline is significantly smaller. But we're very glad to have you back East Coast here. Um,
It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I loved my time in those two places, but it's nice to be home.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but you picked up another degree while you were in Arizona as well, too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I got my master's degree in investigative journalism from Arizona State University's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications. It really rolls off the tongue when you give the full titles. But yes, I was there for a year and a half getting a degree. And yeah, that was where my experience had previously been on daily newspaper, a lot of community focus at that program. I did some freelancing with some Alaska publications while there, but my real focus was in-depth investigative pieces and
Yeah.
work.
I think that, and that's obviously one of the things that stood out to you, even just on paper, before we got to know you as a person in the interview process. I mean, this was a big step up for us as a business. We went in the last hiring cycle, we're around 50 applicants. This one was well over 100 applicants to this position. We were excited about that, obviously from a growth perspective, but really what I think made us most excited was the caliber and quality of people that came through. And you distinguished yourself with your excitement, with your ideas, and so you're in Connecticut. I think everyone watching and listening to this should understand. Alex is here to jump in fully to rooting out corruption in Connecticut through investigative journalism. And I guess what are you excited about? You're being back in Connecticut now. What are you looking forward to in the next, you know, let's say 40 years? But really, let's start with, 18 months. What are you excited about taking a closer look at or just being back here other than, a little bit of real fall weather, maybe?
Oh, well, definitely the fall weather, and the pumpkin spice and the apples. But no, in terms of, well, 40 years from now, I'm looking forward to retirement.
Yes.
But in the short term, we'll call it maybe the next few years. Uh, Honestly, one of the things I'm most excited about is taking my experiences in these other places I've lived. Since going to college, I've also lived in Schenectady, New York. I had a brief stint in Ithaca. I lived in Oregon, then obviously Alaska and Arizona. And coming back to Connecticut with a pair of fresh eyes and some perspectives that, living in such vastly different communities, I view things really differently than when I lived here, and I think that's for the better in terms of, how that translates to stories. Well, first off, there are certain things when I lived here I just never paid attention to. I'll just be open with that. I did not really pay attention to the military. I did not really pay attention to a lot of industry, particularly along, the coasts or like northeastern communities. I was really focused on the community I lived with. And so I'm really excited to see new parts of the state that maybe I was aware of, but never did a deep dive into the communities, the cultures, the histories, the jobs, the governments. And I'm just, in terms of storytelling, I'm excited for everything. I will tell every story. I've covered like, construction contracts to like lithium mining to like profiles on insurance companies. Um, which is very relevant for Connecticut. Like that's what I've been doing since, leaving, just all sorts of different things. And yeah, I'm excited to do all sorts of different things here at home. Yeah. Sorry, I hope that answered the question. I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous, but very excited to be here. And I hope any viewers can see my sincerity and excitement about all of this.
Absolutely. I think it comes through. And I was glad to hear you say, the outsider's eyes, right? I mean, it's an interesting thing because you are so familiar with Connecticut, but to come back with a new experience, there are many things here that are normalized too, right? That, we see people reach out with tips who say, you know, this is an issue that I am just aware of now because it started to impact my life. But, when we start looking into it, it's been around for 10, 15, 20 years. Heck, and some of the cemetery stuff that Catherine wrote about. I mean, we're dealing with statutes that were put together in what, 17 and 1800s that we're saying, oh, these are still hanging around having an impact today. So I think your fresh eyes are greatly appreciated because the things that are normal that doesn't mean that they're not corrupt. And we do, that's part of what we're here to do, right? It doesn't matter if the corruption is created yesterday or 100 years ago. We have a job to do to write about it and explain it. Hopefully, translate some of that old timey language for the modern day so people
Yes.
understand what's going on. Um, I guess with that in mind, right? I know you mentioned a few topics that you have picked up experience on. Some of the stuff you're bringing back to Connecticut. What else do people need to know about you other than, I guess, your email to get in touch to start sending you more tips?
Well, I guess first, please my email, alex@insideinvestigator.org. Best way to reach me. And please, any ideas, reach out. I'm sure a lot of people after watching this might look up my name, look me up on Muckrack, and you'll see, there are some beats that I've really covered consistently throughout my time uh, since working, but that doesn't mean that that's the only thing I look at. I'm really one of the things I learned in Alaska and in Arizona is how to be versatile, how to learn how to learn and how to identify my shortcomings and reach out to people for more help. And so if you have any ideas or stories you think need to be pursued, please reach out to me. And, if I can't do that, either because of time constraints or something, we have an incredible team at Inside Investigator who either people can help me tackle stories or maybe someone else will be interested in it. We're really such a, well, you know this, Connor. We're such a strong team that, we really try to look into everything and get things done. And yeah, I just really want people to know I'm here, I care, and I want to hear from you.
I love that. I love that. Obviously, if you are watching or listening, you can see the energy that Alex brings to this job, to this position, and truly to the service mentality that we have as a business, right? We kind of have that we're number two mentality. I think even if we were lucky enough to grow to, massive news organization, Alex hits the nail on the head. We have to keep grinding to make sure that we are ultimately providing value. That's what this is all about. If we're not useful to readers, what are we doing? So I really appreciate that mentality, and I think you're right too. The compliments deserve to be extended across this team, and I believe they have, but I hope that everyone on this team has shown their support for you from day one here, and we're just so excited to have you on this team. Anything else that you want to add before we wrap up?
Um, I don't know, maybe just like a little plug for the publication, although I'm sure everyone watching this knows this. One of the things I love about Inside Investigator, and one of the things I'm so excited to be a part of, is just challenging the ordinary and challenging the things that are taken for granted. Um, I really love this state. I really care about the people here, and I I'm just so excited. Well, first, thank you, Connor, for letting me be on this team, but I'm just really excited to join such an incredible media organization, not newspaper, but a media organization that cares so much for its audience and for the state?
I appreciate that, and it is definitely heartfelt and genuine. So, very much appreciated there. To everyone watching, listening, and tuning in, join me in welcoming Alex. Huge thank you for tuning into Inside Update. If you do want to dig into Alex's newest stories and check out her investigations as soon as they start dropping, head over to insideinvestigator.org, sign up for our free emails, and learn more about our nonprofit. We'll be back soon, and until then, be well, stay safe, and stay informed. See you, everybody.